Top 10 Mexican horror flicks to watch this Cinco de Mayo. We've got witches, vampires, cannibals, zombies, slashers, haunted houses, sex, starved, nuns, the works. Here we go. Number 10, Cemetery of Terror, 1985. This motherfucker is a cheesy, sleazy 80s Mexican zombie picture. If that kind of thing tickles your fancy, then get a load of Ruben Galindo Jr.'s 1985 Cemetery of Terror. The flick stars Hugo Stiglitz as a professor who theorizes that a serial killer has returned from the grave. Cut to a bunch of teenage punks who pull a prank in a house in the middle of the cemetery on Halloween night in order to resurrect the dead, and a up blend of zombie and slasher recipes comes spitting out with bitter acidity and high gore content. Sure, it's derivative, but it's executed well and has a really fun, up-tempo vibe throughout its brisk 88 minutes. No need to wait for Dias de los Muertos. Visit Cemetery of Terror on Cinco de Mayo as well. Number 9, House of Madness, 1973. Juan Lopez Montezuma was such a distinct and singular voice in the 70s and 80s Mexican horror scene. His featured debut, House of Madness, which he co-wrote, follows the sedacious mutiny of a bunch of asylum inmates. Once overtaking the nefarious Dr. Tar's torture dungeon, the inmates turn the tables on the doctors and subject them to barbarous treatment that culminates into ritual slaughter. Shit's gnarly. Number 8, The Witch's Mirror, 1962. Having directed 117 films from 1928 to 1974, Chano Ureta was an absolute titan of Mexico's film industry, toiling across the entire gamut of genres in his career. When Ureta chose to essay the horror brand, he struck down relentlessly with veritable terror. Look no further than his 1962 film, The Witch's Mirror, about a man who murders his wife only to be tormented by her angry spirit when her ghost appears from a witch's mirror years later. Tactile, atmospheric, downright unsettling. The Witch's Mirror can be viewed as a sort of inspirational forerunner to such evil reflective glass flicks as Into the Mirror, Mirrors, Oculus, etc. There's also a wince-worthy skin graft scene that is comparably reminiscent of the great French horror flick, Eyes Without a Face.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
Santanico Pandemonium, 1975. Let it be known, this is surely the inspiration behind Salma Hayek's character in From Dusk Till Dawn. Indeed, the sleaze oozing perv picture from 1975, a fine entry to the vaunted canon of 70s nunsploitation pictures, and mind you, is as lurid as a Mexican horror flick this side of the Spanish-speaking Jesus Franco. Natively titled Santanico Pandemonium, La Sexorcista, the movie follows a sex-starved nun who must stave off her carnal cravings or else her soul will be enraptured by the devil. Sick setup. It may be a little slow in spots, but it's funny, sexy, bloody, bizarre, and damn best when seen with a group of cushed-out friends. Number 6. We Are What We Are, 2010. As we approach the midway point, who better to be welcomed by than the up cannibalistic clan in We Are What We Are. Written and directed by Jorge Michael Grau, the flick attempts to take an intimate look at a rite of passage for a pair of siblings as they're tasked with holding the fort and fending for themselves when their fiendish father suddenly perishes. Of course, this means tracking, hunting, and masticating large amounts of human flesh. Remade in 2013 to arguably even greater success by Jim Mickle, I not only prefer the original, but urge those to check it out before seeing how the redo adds a few wrinkles. Number 5, Blacker Than the Night by writer-director Carlos Enrique Tabata. About a passel of nubiles, which is a bunch of young hotties ready for marriage who take residence in one of their aunt's old abodes. Once there, they discover a malefic invisible force that haunts the girls through strange voices, eerie visions, odd noises, ghastly phenomena, and all the rest. Number 4, From Dusk Till Dawn. Now that you know where sexy-ass Salma got that name, Santanico Pandemonium, it only feels right to throw in a movie that, at the very least, was partially shot and set in blood-soaked Tijuana. yes. Robert Rodriguez and QT's From Dusk Till Dawn, a Cons on the Run vampire mashup of epic delight, featuring the Mexican queen of all Mexican queens, is too damn memorable to omit this Cinco de Mayo. Love this flick. Shout out to the late great Michael Parks, who steals an early scene as Deputy Earl McGraw. Shout out to another for a young John Hawkes behind the counter. Equal props go to Harvey Keitel for one of his softest departures, and triple props to Cheech for playing different roles. F***ing A. Number 3, The Vampire, 1957. In his short 58 years on Earth, Mexican filmmaker Fernando Mendez directed 40 films, 35 of which he wrote. Many are worthy of digging through. Making his screen debut, Jermaine Robles plays the suave and seductive Count Carol de Luvid, depicted as the devilishly debonair bloodsucker we've all come to know and recognize. For the story, this one sees a Mexican girl return to her hometown to bury a recently deceased aunt. While there, tales of her town being ravaged by a vampiric curse makes the girl suspect her next-door neighbor and other aunt may be involved. This is classic Mexican horror in its most formidable form. Number 2, Kronos. Guillermo del Toro's Oscar-winning track began with Kronos, his 1993 inaugural address about a mysterious machine, an ancient artifact, actually, that seems to grant eternal life. Strangely, it's the only film of Billy the Bulls that happens to take place in Mexico. Go figure. Anyways, the crux as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that for every reaction the machine gives, an equal and opposite, and at times brutally horrific reaction is retorted in short order. I liken this film to Lynch's Eraserhead and how the passionate ingenuity burns right off the screen and how undeniable talent shines through no matter what limited resources may have hindered the overall vision from the onset. It's Del Toro through and through, from fingertips over each frame to the heartbeat in each character. Number 1, Even the Wind is Afraid, 1968, and Book of Stone, 1969. If you come away with nothing from this list other than the proper primer to pour a keg down your gullet this weekend, take note of this name, Carlos Enrique Tobar. This guy was the preeminent name in Mexican horror from about 1965 to 1985. His 2 late 60s films, Even the Wind is Afraid, about a harem of schoolgirls being haunted on campus during spring break, and Book of Stone, about a creepy little girl and her imaginary friend, are both worthy of seeing as soon as you're able. The former is a brilliantly eerie spin on the haunted house yarn, while the latter is an atmospherically menacing marvel that'll crawl under your skin and stay there. They both will.